everybody. Welcome to Married with Wrestling. I'm Susan, and this is Chris, and we are here to talk about, mainly today, AEW All Out, and our review of that.
Yeah, so we decided we normally film Saturday mornings, post the video on Sunday, but we decided this week AEW doesn't really get a lot of time on the podcast because not much has happened recently, so we decided that we would kind of touch on WWE a little bit, because WWE is just coming out of Bash in Berlin. Things are kind of static till we get close to Bad Blood, which is still almost a month away. So we're going to put a majority of our focus today on All Out. So if you're not an AEW fan, this video is probably not going to be for you this week. But All Out was, top to bottom, a pretty good show. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that despite the fact that I really wish that there was more of a time gap between All In and All Out.
Yeah.
All Out, the past couple years, last night's show and last year's show, have really brought it. Like, they could have easily been shows that didn't really have much on them, but they really do. Like, there's not a lot of build to some of it, but what happens is good. And last night, I would say the weakest match, honestly, was Mercedes Moné and Hikaru Shida. I'm not even going to say it was a bad match. It just wasn't up to the quality of the rest of the card. Because we started with MJF and Daniel Garcia, and that match started right out of the fucking gate because Daniel Garcia didn't even get his entrance. He just ran and attacked MJF during MJF's entrance.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good match. It was really, really heated. There was a lot of bodily fluid being thrown around. At one point, MJF hocked a loogie on Daniel Garcia's face, and it kind of hung there for a little bit. That's a little too much for me. If I was ever a wrestler, my one limit would be please don't spit on me because that's fucking gross. But MJF ended up winning the match. To me and a lot of people, because I was following the boards online, the match the ending felt kind of flat because MJF just did the same thing he always does. He pulled the ref in front. When the ref wasn't looking, he punched Daniel Garcia in the balls and then pinned him, which is typical. I mean, it's fine. It's heelish, but for a match like that, with, like, the threat of ending careers and putting people in wheelchairs, a low blow and pin doesn't really feed that narrative. Although, to AEW's credit, there's a lot more later in the show that...
It's kind of good that... I'm kind of glad. What am I trying to say right now? I'm glad that there wasn't more, because the show was a little hard for me to get through it.
AEW definitely put the emphasis in murder in the second half of the card.
Yeah.
So after that match, Daniel Garcia just wasted MJF. He hit him with a pile driver, left through the crowd. I saw a lot of speculation online. It hasn't been announced that Daniel Garcia signed a new deal. So people are saying it's kind of hard to tell. Either he signed a new deal or he got a really nice send-off. I tend to think that he re-signed.
Yeah, which...
I think if he didn't re-sign, I think MJF just would have beat him and that would have been the end of it.
It just kind of sucks for Danny Garcia because I think he would have done really well in NXT.
I think NXT would have...
Consistently.
I think NXT would have helped him with the character aspect of it.
Yeah.
He's getting better. He's improved.
He's just a brawler from Buffalo. That's his whole gimmick. Buffalo, New York, he's a brawler from there.
And that's not to take away from the fact that he's really good in the ring.
No.
But, for me, I think... And I've seen this criticism a lot with AEW, that they have a lot of dudes whose gimmick is just good in the ring. And they do kind of blend together sometimes. But I think Daniel Garcia is trying to map out his own way. He has a very unique way of talking that I think he can use to his advantage. He's got the way he talks and his accent kind of can help him separate.
Yeah.
If we could just get him to do some interesting things. And killing MJF is a pretty interesting thing. So we'll see where we go from there. They had to take MJF out on a stretcher, which is kind of funny because apparently it was the only stretcher they had at AEW, because later they needed one and didn't have it, and they just carried somebody out. But we'll get there. After that match was the match between the Bucks and Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, which also was a really good match. A lot of people online said it was the best Bucks match in a while.
Well, good for the Bucks, because they get a lot of shit.
Yeah. One thing that I got from that match as well, Claudio is invaluable. You cannot put enough money on what Claudio does.
Claudio is somebody that I'm still shocked as big as he is in real life, because on TV, yes, he looks muscular, but he is effing huge in real life.
He's a unit. He's an absolute unit.
You don't realize that
No.
Just watching him on TV.
No, and he's such a good wrestler. Like, it's a treat to watch Claudio work. And last night was by no means an exception. Claudio carried a lot of that match just through sheer being a badass. Bucks ultimately ended up retaining. Wheeler Yuta took the pin, which everybody kind of predicted anyway. That's kind of
it kind of fits in though storyline later on though.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get to what happened.
I know. I'm just saying a little foreshadowing. It kind of plays in later.
A little bit, yeah. So after that match, I'm trying to do this from memory. After that match was Pac and Ospreay. Pac and Will Ospreay was just...
They got a "This is awesome" chant within 5 minutes of the match.
I mean, I'm just going to tell you to go watch it. It's Pac and Will Ospreay. I can't do it justice sitting here talking about it.
Right.
It's just two phenomenally athletic dudes doing phenomenally athletic things. And I've been a Pac fan since his days of King of the Cruiserweights on 205 Live.
I know. He's such a good wrestler.
He is.
And now he's even more, like, broody and...
He's more of a bastard.
Yeah.
Like I love, like, before his entrance, like, they just kind of, like... They shoot him through the grating in the tunnel, and he just kind of blankly stares. It's great.
And his hair's always in his face. And it's like, I feel your pain, because I feel like his thinning a little bit on his hair, so it's like he pulls all of his hair to the front. And it's like, I understand your pain. Your hair's so thin, you've got to pull it all from one area. I get that.
Yeah.
You do too.
Yeah, I do. I understand, Pac. I get where you're coming from. But no, that match was just... That match was fire. It was absolutely fire. After that was the Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, Chicago Street Fight. This was a contender for me for match of the night, which is saying something on a card that was really
It
stacked.
was my match of the night. But listen, I am a sucker for women's death matches.
Which is so funny because...
I am such a sucker.
Because when we get to the main event, you spent most of it essentially watching it through your eyes.
I don't like blood. I don't like to watch bleeding unless it's women bleeding. And when that's the case, I'm like, yes, you show them we're just as tough as the men. And like,
I mean,
I love it.
These two women, and kudos. AEW told a woman's story that didn't revolve around a title.
Literally, Statlander went down on thumbtacks on her vajayjay.
Yeah. Like, she went to do a split spot and went down on the thumbtacks.
Oh my god. At that point, I was like, I love this match. This match is awesome.
And kudos to whoever came up with this story, because this was a woman's feud in AEW that did not involve the title, had stakes, had build, had lore. This AEW's women's storytelling between this and Mariah May and Toni Storm is night and day from where we were 2 years ago. Or even a year ago.
But it's like they can't do multiple stories at once, because are there really... There's like, what, one men's story that's continuously going on?
There's a couple. There's Danielson winding down his career. That's kind of a story in itself and building to that. Swerve and Hangman, a lot of people have said, is a generational rivalry.
Yeah, but I'm over. I'm done with it.
It's our generation's Rock and Stone Cold is what I get a lot of comparisons to.
That's great.
Except they're both more sociopathic than Rock and Stone Cold were.
But yeah, Statlander and Willow was such a good match.
It was.
I know that the other matches were good, but I had a really hard time getting into this pay-per-view at first, because it was just like, we just had to watch All In last weekend. We had to sit through...
2 weekends ago.
Really? Because was there no pay-per-view last weekend? Because I feel like we've had pay-per-view every freaking
Bash in
weekend.
Berlin was last weekend. Bash in Berlin and No Mercy.
Okay, so we've had those two pay-per-views last weekend. Plus 1 million hours of wrestling to watch. Plus another 1 million hour-long pay-per-view from AEW. And I had a really hard time getting into it. But the Willow and Statlander match is the one that really got me, like, into that pay-per-view.
Statlander ended up winning the match, which I like that call. I would have been fine either way. I think it's going to help build character for Willow if we follow up. It will help build character for Willow on what she does moving forward. But yeah, if you get a chance to check it out, AEW women's hardcore matches always deliver. Like, there's not a lot of things that AEW is the best at right now, especially with the lack of story direction at times and choices that are made. But AEW's women have the death match on lock.
Usually if they have a match like that, I know I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, because they all go balls to the wall. They all wreck shop on each other.
Good for them, because there's some people out there, probably mostly all men, who think that women shouldn't do those things, and it's like, bro, why? They could probably beat your ass up. Like,
listen,
stop.
in my experience, and feel free to downvote me if I'm making assumptions, but to me, as a guy, and watching how guys interact when we get in arguments, and watching how women interact when they get in arguments, I would say a death match is much more likely to happen between two women. Like, I honestly feel like...
I feel like men are more likely to throw punches.
Men are more likely to throw punches and get it out of
with their words.
Well, men are more likely to throw punches and get it out of their system. Women are going to pull a hangman and cut someone open and drink their blood. Like,
I guess. I feel like we're more likely to...
Some
women are a little too intense, in my opinion, but... Yeah.
You couldn't see your housewives devolving into like a street fight where like they're choking the other out with a chain.
The only ones that really got into fights a lot like that were Real Housewives of Atlanta and Real Housewives of Potomac. So they're the only ones that really get into fist fights and stuff.
I mean, Hangman Page is from Virginia, which is right around that Potomac region, so...
Yeah.
We had light tubes in that match.
I wasn't expecting... Whenever that showed up, I was like, yes.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time. I think I told you during the show, this reminds me of watching, like, CZW or Ring of Honor that I had streamed online in, like, the early 2000s.
I loved it. That was by far my favorite match of the night, though. And I just love when women go batshit like that. And I love how whenever they prove, listen to us. Who was it? WWE? That doesn't like women to bleed. They can bleed. They bleed.
Yeah.
Just like men. It's crazy. We bleed like men.
Yeah.
That's crazy to some people.
I know. Yes. Who knew? Especially since for you guys, it's a biological function that happens monthly. We'll move on from that. But definitely check out the Willow and Statlander match. It's a treat, especially if you like hardcore wrestling.
Yes.
I would also say if Hangman Page and Swerve was a little too much for you, Statlander and Willow, I think, goes as far as it should go without going too far.
It was the perfect amount of insanity for me.
Yeah. And it's only, and it's going to get crazier from here. So after Statlander and Willow killed each other, next we got the Fatal 4-Way of Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita, Orange Cassidy, and Mark Briscoe. For the Continental title. This was a match that had zero build. Literally, we found out who was going to be on it on Collision on Friday.
Yeah.
All we knew was Okada was going to be in it. Okada posted a hilarious Instagram image where he just replaced everybody's name with bitch. Because that's Okada now. A lot of people were like, Okada's the best wrestler in the world. Why is he doing this comedy shit? As long as he's happy, I don't give a shit.
Why can't the great wrestlers be funny, too? I don't understand.
I don't know. Stone Cold's hilarious.
What is so wrong with a wrestler having fun while they're being good at what they do?
Having fun with their friends.
What is so wrong with that? Like, the people that think that really need to have their lives evaluated.
Well, anyway. Okada, actually, all four dudes brought it. We definitely got some teases of Takeshita and Okada one-on-one. That's the match I want to see.
The crowd got popped for that, too.
Yeah, that's the match I want to see.
Yeah.
I also love just the visual of Okada and, like, Mark Briscoe mixing it up. Because I think of Okada as this, like, prestigious Japan wrestler. And Mark Briscoe just comes in with his Sandy Forkness and just his redneck kung fu and his chicken and just... I love Mark Briscoe so much. I really, really hate that it took the death of his brother to get him on TV because that sucks because Mark Briscoe's a freaking treat.
Yeah.
And what he's doing with the conglomeration, it's weird. It feels like patched together, but Mark Briscoe makes it work. His promos are always must watch. Kyle O'Reilly's always inspired by them whenever he cuts them. But as far as back to the match, it was really good. And there was a few times where it felt like it was anybody's game. I think at the end of the day, we all knew Okada was going to win because Okada's not going to drop that title without a story going into it because of the way that he's been built. He's also, fun fact, Okada is currently AEW's longest running champion.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the other titles have changed hands more recently than Okada got that one.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So This is another match kind of like Pac and Ospreay that I can't do justice talking about spots. It was a really, really good match. The ending sequence is great because Okada just looks like a world ender. They definitely, the way they did the match at the end, definitely saved some juice for an Okada Takeshita one-on-one match, which I'm super, super pumped for because I hope we get it. Grand Slam is coming up in a couple weeks. It's not a pay-per-view, it's just a special Dynamite, so don't panic. But I think we might get those two one-on-one at Grand Slam. And I know I'm not the only one that's saying this. It's time to put a title on Takeshita. Takeshita is a phenomenal wrestler, and he absolutely deserves to have a title. And I wouldn't be upset if he was the one to take it off of Okada. And I wouldn't be upset if Okada lost that title and then went and just messed around with Bryan Danielson for a little bit on his way out. I mean, every time Okada wrestles Danielson, Danielson gets hurt. There's the story right there. So yeah, a good fatal 4-way match, a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. Like I said, at this point, the card was 5 for 5. Mm-hmm. It was just banger after, as Sheamus puts it, banger after banger after banger on this card. After the 4-way match was Mercedes Moné and Hikaru Shida's match. This match was a lot slower than the other matches on the card. The energy wasn't as high. Like I said, the match was fine. It just didn't have... It felt like a Dynamite match in the middle of a pay-per-view card. It felt like a good Dynamite match in the middle of a pay-per-view card. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have speculated if it's Mercedes that's the issue because of the way the All In match went with Britt Baker.
But I wouldn't... It could be Mercedes Moné, but I wouldn't use the Britt Baker match as anything because Britt Baker, in my opinion, is not that good of a wrestler. Mm-hmm. So she's great on the mic, mm-hmm. but she's not that good of a wrestler. Mm-hmm. She's just too slow for me, I think. So, like, mm-hmm. Some people like that, mm-hmm. but I get bored. If they're a slow-moving wrestler, I get really bored with them. I can't focus on them. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't know if Mercedes is slowing down. I don't know if she's as good as she was after her injury. Like, I'm not sure.
I think that could play a factor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people online last night that were like, maybe it wasn't Mercedes in WWE. Maybe it was Bayley and Charlotte Flair carrying those matches.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have always liked Mercedes, mm-hmm. even when she was Sasha Banks. But something's not clicking.
Right. I don't know. I mean, it's not like she's doing bad work in AEW. It's just, I just don't, I'm not drawn into her like I was when she was with WWE for some reason.
I didn't expect the other, and this isn't a slight against the other women of AEW, because honestly, AEW has a pretty solid women's mm-hmm. division. They just don't have much in the booking department.
Yes.
But I think if you took this women's division and gave them like Shawn Michaels booking, they could show how great they are. Yeah. There's some great wrestlers in that AEW women's locker room that are just looking to bust out.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm very surprised how much the other women have outshone Mercedes since she got there. I thought Mercedes would stand out.
Right,
and she would be like the women's match to look forward to.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't been that way. Like the past couple, Mercedes Moné's matches are one of the things I look the least forward to, which is not what I expected to be at this point in time. But I don't think she's doing bad work. Just something's not clicking.
Yeah.
Something's missing, something's not there. I don't think it's the character. A lot of people get annoyed with her character. It's fine. It's just the boss with a different name to me.
It is, yes.
I don't think that's the issue. Something's not clicking in the matches. A lot of people said her finisher's not that great. I would agree for a wrestler her size, her move is only impactful on women that are smaller than her, and there aren't many because she's not big. Like, her finisher would work better for like a Nyla Rose or a Chris Statlander or a Jade Cargill. Somebody or even Bianca Belair. Someone that's bigger and more built could pull off her finisher better. I definitely see that argument because sometimes when her finisher hits, it does look a little wonky. But I don't think that's the only issue. I think something before that's just not clicking with Mercedes. Like I said, not a bad match, but probably could have happened on Dynamite. So after that match, we ramped it up to 11 again because we had Danielson versus Jack Perry. This match was really, really good. A lot of people said it hushed up a lot of the doubters about Jack Perry being a top guy. Jack Perry's sell of the Busaiku knee is great because it looks like he got shot out of a cannon. I know a lot.
He's just such an a-hole as the
He is,
scapegoat. And I am very much enjoying the scapegoat thing.
See, and online is so split, but there's a lot of people out there that just hate the Elite on principle, and I think that plays a factor as well.
To some people, the Elite can do nothing right. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's like, I get it, but like, at the same time, even if you despise somebody, you gotta give him something sometimes. I've said this so many times, I despise Punk, but I can give him credit where credit's due. Like, his feud with McIntyre has been amazing. Mm-hmm. I hate him, but even I can admit that. Like, put away your pettiness and your pride and just say that they're good at something. It's not going to kill you to compliment them. Like, I know some people think it will.
Yeah. But yeah, Jack showed out. And it was a really, really good match. It was really compelling. You started to check out and you were like, well, Danielson's going to win. And I was like, I could see Tony Khan wanting to crown Jack Perry in Chicago. And your face when I said that, you were like, oh God, it's possible.
Another FU to CM Punk.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Which honestly, if I was Tony Khan, I'm petty. I would be the same way. Mm-hmm. I'd be the same. People would be like, Susan, you've got to get over this. And I'd be like, don't tell me how I need to act.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much how it would go.
Yes.
So we get to through the end of the match. The Elite comes out. Claudio and Wheeler come and chase them off, which is from earlier in the night.
Moxley comes first. And Moxley's been doing that weird thing where he's just beating everybody up.
This was during the match. Remember, the Bucks got chased off during the match because Bryce Remsburg went down.
Oh, yeah.
So then, Danielson's able to get the win because Wheeler and Claudio chase off the Young Bucks into the crowd. So then Danielson gets the win. Danielson's in the ring celebrating. Luchasaurus comes out. And him and Jack Perry have a little stare down, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've seen them in the ring together. And then Christian comes out to combine that.
Yeah.
Christian comes out with his little contract. He's looking so smug. I love Christian Cage so much.
I know.
He comes out looking so smug. And when he gets to the ring, Moxley's waiting for him. Moxley, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Apparated out of thin air.
He did.
Even the announcers were like, where did Moxley come from? And then as soon as Moxley was out there, my alarm sensors went off, and I told you, he's going to step out of the way. He's going to step out of the way and let Christian in there.
I was just looking for Marina Shafir somewhere.
And, because he hasn't interacted with the BCC since he's been back. So,
he's just with Marina Shafir messing everything up.
So my Spidey senses went off. I got into the online boards. Everybody's Spidey senses were going off. They were like, okay, I don't trust Moxley right now. So Christian's like, okay, I'll leave. And Christian takes his family and leaves. I love that he brought his whole family out.
Yeah. Mama Wayne.
I love that Christian made the trip to Chicago to do that only. Imagine, take a second and just think of all the times that a wrestler has showed up for a grand total of 20 seconds. Think of all the travel that went into it.
CM Punk went to, where did he go overseas for 5 seconds?
Glasgow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think of all the pressure that's in that. Anybody that's flown, AJ Styles, anybody that's flown and gone through the experience of going to an airport, renting a car, fighting traffic to get to the arena, because most of these arenas are in high traffic areas that are hard to get to, and parking's a bitch. So imagine you go through all of this to make an appearance on a 4-hour show for about a minute and a half, and then you go home. What an insane life these people lead sometimes. It's the logistics of it fascinate me. I love to travel, but I think I would have a hard time being I gotta check. I gotta go through the airport. I gotta go through security. Yeah, I gotta fly 3 hours out of my comfort time zone.
But a lot of the wrestlers fly first class if they're able to. Mm-hmm. They literally
AEW,
like, they can literally, like, pull right up to, even with WWE, they can pull up right where they need to be, so you don't have to fight for parking. Like, it's different if you're the talent.
Well, AEW also pays the travel expenses for the wrestlers. I couldn't imagine being in WWE and Triple H tells me, so, you're going to buy a ticket to San Diego, and you're going to come out for a minute and a half. And I'm going to be like, I'm going to spend all this money, get a hotel.
No, if you were a wrestler, you'd be like, thanks, I'm back on that TV.
Yeah, as a wrestler. I'm not a wrestler. So looking from it outside, it's bizarre.
Gotcha.
But I love to think about that sometimes. Like, all of the hell. Some dudes lose their luggage for a minute.
That happens to Bucks a lot. I know that happens to Danhausen a lot. Like,
it seems to happen to the people that fly on Delta, from what I understand.
Yeah,
which is crazy, because Delta's the most expensive from what I've seen, like, of domestic that we've tried to book.
Right. Yeah, but
anyway, we got way off track there. So anyway, Christian's out there with his family. Moxley gives him a look, and they back off. Christian's like, I get it. That's fine. I'll leave. This is after Wheeler and Claudio have come back, and Pac's out there. So we've got Moxley, Pac, Claudio, and Wheeler out there. And Danielson's in the ring laughing. And then I looked at you, and I said, Danielson's overconfident. Something's going to happen.
He was so happy. He's like, oh, my BCC family.
Yeah, like he was like so happy. Little did he
to save me.
Little did he know that his family was a lot more dysfunctional than the family that just left.
Claudio took the first punch, which
so they all get in the ring, and there's this great video or this great photo floating online right now of Wheeler, like Moxley's hugging Danielson, and Wheeler is getting into the ring, and Wheeler just has this look on his face like something's up, like he doesn't trust what's going on. It's a really great camera picture. Whoever got it, So anyway, Moxley's hugging Danielson, and I'm like, something's just not right. And everybody's waiting.
Moxley's not the loving type.
Everybody's waiting for Moxley to throw the first blow. And like you said, it's a shock because Claudio throws the first shot. Claudio just uppercuts Danielson. And a lot of people, somebody was like, well, Danielson no selling, it's a choice. No, fuck that. Danielson was like, what the fuck? Like, he was looking at Claudio.
No selling it? What do you mean no selling? His face was of, like, utter betrayal.
Because he didn't look knocked out.
But wouldn't you be shocked, though, in that situation?
Yeah, like, you'd be like, what? Plus, Danielson already laid the seeds on commentary. He was like, I take Claudio uppercuts in practice. They hurt. He knows what it feels like. So he just looks at Claudio, and then so I said earlier that MJF and Daniel Garcia didn't quite lean into the murder as much as I thought they would with the finish. Here's where, we haven't even got to Hangman and Swerve yet. So what happens is, Danielson is laying there looking at Claudio.
Well, and they're holding back Yuta.
I'm getting there.
You're just taking a long time building the story.
John Moxley pulls out a plastic bag and starts suffocating Danielson like Godfather style or something. And like you said, Pac is holding Wheeler back. Wheeler's losing it. Wheeler was clearly not in on this. And it's like somebody equated it to Pac just standing there holding Wheeler going, this has to happen. This has to happen.
I know, because Wheeler Yuta, I'm sorry, but you weren't really fighting that hard to get to Danielson. You're just kind of standing there crying. Like,
yeah. But I mean, to be fair, Wheeler's built like that, and Pac's built, like, Pac's small, but he's stout.
They're like the same size.
So anyway, Danielson, and of course everybody online's like, Danielson just ripped the bag. I invite anybody to have a plastic bag over their head to start thinking clearly.
Right, you're going to be a panic.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to be like, let me think logically.
And you just went to war with Jack Perry, a man that has been set on fire. So Moxley essentially knocks him out. Here's what I was
say
Moxley knocks him out with the bag. And Wheeler's kind of left behind, and Claudio just goes to Wheeler and just like pats him on the chest and leaves. And I didn't even think about this until somebody had posted online later. They were like, Wheeler's still trio champs with Pac and Claudio. And I was like, yeah, he is.
Maybe that's why they didn't hit him though, because they were like, okay, all done, pal. Let's go.
We're good. That's all we needed to do.
You're good. Let's go.
So they get Danielson out, and this is where the stretcher thing comes in, because they literally just, like, 5 people just pick up Danielson and carry him out. Like
I didn't even notice
like he's a drunk frat guy at a party that's had too much to drink. So they carry him to the back, and the announcers are selling, and JR is selling it like, JR's like, there's no place for this in wrestling. Everybody's like, is JR being serious, or is he selling? Because either way, makes sense.
I think he's probably just selling.
I would say so too, but with JR, you never know, because JR doesn't really have much of a filter anymore now that he's gotten older.
That's true.
And there's a lot of people that think stuff like that shouldn't be in wrestling. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, that's cool. Wait till, kids that are playing are like, oh, let me go to the plastic bag. And it's like, well, sometimes you just have to tell kids not to be dumb.
I was going to say, and obviously that was not meant for children. So if that's happening, it's the parents' fault for letting them watch it. Mm-hmm. Like, come on.
Well, anyway, I know. It's not like AEW hasn't told you who they are at this point.
You're the dumbass if you think your children are okay to watch a pay-per-view with these people in it.
So that's how Danielson's match with Jack Perry ended. So now, Danielson has a match with Darby somewhere in the future. He has a match with Christian Cage somewhere in the future. And now the BCC's on his ass. So Danielson's definitely going to go out with a bang. With his career. Like, he is literally lining up some stuff to get to the end of the year. Because he said he's going to have surgery by the end of the year. So if this is true, which it's wrestling, so who knows if it's true. But it's pretty consistently been reported that he's going to have to. So between now and the end of December, at World's End, we're going to have to solve Darby, we're going to have to solve Christian, we're going to have to solve Moxley. And the Elite is still bantering about. So I'm sure they've got a plan for that. So Danielson's going to have an interesting next few months. And I think I'm glad that we're finally doing something with the BCC. And I like that Wheeler has kind of been the one tapped to stay with Danielson right now, because those two, they've done past promos. A lot of people say that AEW has no continuity. If you look for it, it's there. They've done promos in the past where Wheeler has said specifically he's closest to Danielson. So that has been set up. It's been a while, but it's there. So we'll see where that goes. So we went from one murder directly into another murder, because after that was the main event, lights out, street fight, holy shit fuck match of Hangman versus Swerve. This was
too much.
It started out about in the same thing. Hangman and Swerve have done a lot of extreme shit to each other. A lot of extreme shit. Drinking blood, staple guns, lighting houses on fire. Like, there's a lot of extreme stuff that's been done. This match might have crossed that line in the last 10 minutes or so. So we had staple guns again. Swerve stapled pictures of his family on Hangman. I'm fine with that. He even stapled one into his cheek. Gross, but fine. That's warranted. He burned his house down. Hangman uses a piece of the wood that's burnt from the house as a weapon at one point, which then Swerve uses to literally stab Hangman in the temple. So we've dealt with all that. We have the cinder block, which is a callback to Swerve's feud with Keith Lee, where Hangman has a gnarly scratch on his back from where the cinder block scraped him, which at that point was where you were like, okay, I don't know how much longer I can go.
I mean, I was getting queasy with all the fucking staples, and that was... I don't even usually cuss like that in this podcast, but that was enough to warrant the F-bomb, because the staples were too much for me, because I was in pain. yeah, it was rough to watch.
I think wrestling toes a fine line sometimes, especially with these matches, of being fun and just being difficult to watch. I think Statlander and Willow hung out at that line. I think Hangman and Swerve did cross
But at the same time, like, I get that a lot of people are like, this match was too intense, but the wrestlers, those two obviously enjoy doing those kinds of matches.
Yeah,
I know that there are some people that love that kind of wrestling too, so like...
The things that those two do to each other, the trust between those two has to be insane.
Right.
It has to be. Those two have to be, like, thick as thieves.
Because what else did they do? They did... One thing that AEW has got to stop doing, though, are those stupid, unprotected headshots.
So that's how the match ended. So the match ended... Here's where I thought it crossed the line. They had random things throughout the match, like Prince Nana threw in, like, a tote that had stuff in it. Hangman brought a bag that had stuff in it. Hangman gets in his bag, and he pulls out a needle... And I'm like, what the hell is he going to do with a needle? Like, what are we going to do? He takes out Swerve's grill, which I didn't realize just popped out.
You didn't think that was his real teeth?
No, I thought they were just attached more.
Oh.
Like, I thought, like, they were, like, attached, because everything he does in the ring, they've never come out, and all Hangman had to do was, and that was it? Like, I didn't think that. I should have asked him on the boat how that worked. I'd have had more of a heads up. So Hangman rips out his grill, takes the needle, and just shoves it in his cheek. I think he tried to shove it through his cheek, but it wouldn't quite go through. So that's what he tried to do, and then, like you said, he went and got a chair, and he hit Swerve with the mother of all unprotected chair shots. I think the chair was gimmicked in a way, because it did kind of, like, bust in a way, but there was still a hell of a dent in the chair.
Yeah.
And the camera cut away for the effect, but still, like, it's... In 2024, that's not necessary.
Like, I understand that you're trying to push the envelope, but your brain is not something to use at an expense of getting good, I don't know. Like, your brain, I'm sorry, have we not learned anything from the Chris Benoit's of the world? And, like, that's who I always think of. Like, that in itself is a big thing for me. If I was a wrestler, I'd be like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to murder my family one day because I have all this, like, issues with my brain. Like, I mean, granted, there are other reasons for that still, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah. It's just, you've got to be smarter. You can't be stupid like this. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand. And Hangman was a teacher, for Christ's sake. Like, what?
Could you imagine? Like, Hangman was your teacher and then seeing him do that stuff to Swerve? Could you imagine?
It's just, I don't know. I understand that you want to push the envelope, but, like, be more creative about it. Don't literally put your wrestlers' lives in danger because you want to get a headshot. That's realistic.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying, say what you will, and you should say, because he's awful. But even Mick Foley has told stories where Vince McMahon was like, we didn't need to go that far. Please don't do that ever again. And that's, for that garbage human, was even he had a line.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's necessary in this day and age. I understand why they did it. I understand that they felt the rivalry had built to that point to do it.
I get it.
But
you've got to be smarter.
Yeah, I still don't think you need to do it.
That's putting a talent's life. Like, so much could go wrong with that spot. Like,
you remember the last time that AEW got flack for that was when Cody Rhodes took one, and he had to get stitches in the back of his head.
The last time they got flack for it was because Jack Perry did it recently.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
He had his hands tied, and they threw a chair at his head.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But even they also had the Cody one, where, like, he had to get stitches in the back of it. He still has a scar back there. You could see it.
Yeah.
There's not a place for it in this day and age, especially what we know with head injuries and what's going on. There's other ways you could up the ante without doing that.
Like, the needle, perfect. I know that grossed some people out. It grossed me out. But I'd much rather see something come through somebody's jaw than see them take a headshot unprotected.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
I would much rather you cut open his freaking cheek somehow. Push a knife through it somehow.
God.
I'd rather see
Heath
that.
Ledger Joker style.
But I'd rather see that than have somebody get... Because, yes, that would hurt like a bitch, but at least it wasn't your brain. So...
And that ended the match. And that should have been where it was ended. And a lot of people were like, oh, it's ref stoppage. No, they announced it was by knockout. They said before the match that knockout was a stipulation of winning. It's covered. It's fine. We don't need to bitch about the end result. Let's look at the fact that, so much could go wrong there. And, Hangman's a professional. Thank goodness. But so much could have gone wrong there. And I just don't know that we need to be doing that today. That being said, the match was a murder.
If
the match served the rivalry.
Yeah.
If you want to go story, that it served the rivalry.
It was too far for my taste, but I knew it was going to be too far for my taste whenever it was announced.
Yeah.
So.
Honestly, Swerve's done a lot of lifting for a while. He just got that big fat contract. I do hope this is a reason to send him on vacation for a little bit. Because the dude could use a vacation because he's done a lot of heavy lifting over the past few months. He's been a lot of people don't get on AEW weekly. He's one of them that does. Yeah. So some time off for him will be good. Bring him back. Keep him separated from Hangman for a while. I think this is something that we don't need to revisit again for like a year and a half. Just do what you can to keep them apart. I think this is where doing a separate roster for Collision and Dynamite would be helpful because you could separate wrestlers and not have to force interaction or come up with convoluted ways to avoid interaction. Plus, I think it just is more consistent with getting more people on TV. But that being said, All Out top to bottom was a really good show. Yeah. I give it a solid A.
I would give it a B+, just because it was more gruesome than I would have liked. Mm-hmm. So that's going to kind of decrease it. But other than that, that's why it gets a B+, because it would have gotten an A if it hadn't been for all the gore and the murder and... So
your B+ doesn't come from
the quality.
It comes from a personal
personal preference. Yeah. Yes.
See,
quality wise, it was good. Personal preference, too intense for me. Mm-hmm. But it was still good.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see where things are going to go. What's Hangman going to do next now that he's committed a murder? What's Moxley going to do next now that he's committed a murder? Mm-hmm. There's stuff to look forward to out of this show. You know, what's going to happen with MJF? He just came back. Did he go back on the shelf? Like, there's a lot to look forward to. So yeah, it was a solid outing for AEW for sure. As far as WWE this week, we're getting Solo and Cody in a steel cage next week for the USA premiere on SmackDown. USA is running limited commercials for the next 3 weeks because all 3 shows are going to be on USA until NXT goes to the CW on October 1st. So they are building up a winner of Trick Williams and Pete Dunne to go after Ethan Page for the title. Hopefully Ethan retains. On the Raw side of things, we're still doing the Intercontinental Tournament. Braun Strowman won this week, which I thought was an odd choice. I think Braun Strowman works better as a real life cartoon character rather than chasing titles. My favorite Braun Strowman era was just when he made Roman's life a living hell for like 6 months. The I'm not finished with you era. Mm-hmm. More cartoony stuff like that, I think, is Braun's wheelhouse. Titles, I think he doesn't need them. But yeah, WWE is going to build up the bad blood. It's going to be a great show. McIntyre and Punk, I think at this point, have to go Hell in a Cell. I'm interested to see what they do with that between the two of them because they've had a couple pretty good matches already. Yeah. That's probably WWE's feud of the year right now, is McIntyre and Punk. But that's pretty much what's going on with WWE. We'll cover it more in detail not next week, because next week we're traveling for family, so there'll be a video the week after that. But with that being said, like we say every week, if AEW All Out wasn't for you, maybe WWE at this point is. Thanks, Lex. Maybe at this point, WWE is. Maybe it's MLW. Maybe it's TNA. Maybe it's New Japan. You know, everybody can find something.
And I guess my very strongly encouraged recommendation is don't crap on other people. If people tell you what they like, don't crap on them about it.
No.
Just accept it. That's why there's so many options, you dickheads.
I think we'll leave it at that. So find us on the socials at Facebook at Married with Wrestling. Here on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. Comment any of your thoughts. Do you think there's no place for unprotected headshots in wrestling now? Do you think needles are going too far in death matches? Do you think Moxley smothering Danielson with a plastic bag is too much reality?
Maybe I'm just the weird one, but I didn't think anything of him getting, I didn't think anything of that. So,
you were just like, oh, that's Moxley.
I know. I was like, there's Moxley again. Like, I thought nothing of this until you talked about how people thought it was going too far. I was like, I thought nothing of that.
Yeah. Well, go find some wrestling that you like. Don't piss on the people that have stuff that they like. And we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks.